Welcome, brothers, to another interview. Today we have my brother, DJ JAYBROWN. How you doing today, brother?
I'm fantastic, and you? How you doing?
I'm doing great. So tell us, how many countries have you lived in thus far?
Thus far, a few. As you can hear, I'm from France, so I lived in the UK for quite a while, 3-4 years, and I moved to Norway, then Japan. So I lived in Norway a few years, Japan a few years, Czech Republic a few years, Denmark a few years, China a few years, Australia a year, and then Argentina, Brazil, and now I'm currently 2 years in Colombia.
You are very well traveled.
Let's say that I am hooked on this drug called discovering the world. I've always wanted to discover the world, and then I got the opportunity to travel first to London, and then the bug got me. You know, it was so instantaneous that I said to myself, I want to see further away, because of course, as you know, England is very close to France, so it's like only 30 minutes. So after a while, I was thinking, oh yes, it's not that bad, and then I started traveling, and then I never looked back ever since. So since I left, I never went back to live in France.
And how many languages do you know?
Currently, I speak five languages: so French, English, Spanish, Portuguese, and Norwegian. Now, I had a good relationship in Norway, and when I moved to Denmark, because I lived in Denmark as well. Did I say Denmark actually? Yeah, I lived in Denmark as well. But I learned Norwegian, and then when I'm in Denmark, I can use my Norwegian to understand and make my way around Denmark. So my Norwegian actually is quite good.
Wow.
Yes, like a
And how did you learn these languages?
It's all about, so like, of course, as my first language is French, so Spanish is very easy when it's French. English also, it's something that you learn at school. Of course, many people will tell you that French people, they don't speak good French, but if you travel long enough, or around enough, that's the language that everybody speaks. So when I lived in Norway, actually, most people in Norway speaks English. So even though I started to communicate in English, of course, then I get a girlfriend, and then when you get a girlfriend in the country, and she speaks as Norwegian, and then you live together, you're bound to learn the language one way or the other very easily. So same thing with China. When I lived in China, I started to speak Chinese. But of course, if you leave the country, then there's no way to practice Chinese. Then you lose the little Chinese that you have. Same with Japan or any of these countries. So it's all about finding someone in the country, quick, and then living with her. You know, if you have a girlfriend and you live with a girlfriend that speaks the local language, and then you try not to speak English with her, you're bound to learn the language very easily.
Excellent, excellent. And you said you was in China. Was that a difficult language to learn? Because I know that's kind of like polar opposite of some of the Latin languages.
Yes, it is completely different to learn. And also, I would say that China is also a very completely different country than most of the countries where I've been at. So yeah, it was very, very difficult. And then Chinese have like, there is the Putonghua, which is like the one language, and then there is another language. So many languages that they have here, and then there is the tone. What is important in the Chinese language is the tones, and they have like 4 different tones. So, for example, in our language, you know, B and A, it means ba or whatever. In Chinese, depending on the accent on top of the letter, it can make. They have 4 different tones: ba, 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 ha, ba. So it's so difficult because you have to understand exactly how these people pronounce the word in order for you to understand what that word means. So BA can mean 4 different things depending on how it is pronounced. So for us, it's actually very difficult. For me anyway, it was very difficult to learn the language. I moved first to Beijing. So I lived in Beijing, and in Beijing they speak the normal, you know, language, the Chinese language, right? And then when you go to, and then I did 9 months in Beijing, and then the other 15 months I was in Shanghai, and then I had to learn it, again the language because in Shanghai they speak Shanghainese, which is like a form of language that they have here, but it's completely different in the tone that they're saying, the way they're speaking. So I had to learn again the language for the last 15 months that I was in China. So it's a little bit like difficult. I would say it's one of the most difficult language that I ever experienced, Chinese and Japanese. And I would say that, of course, Japanese is 3 times as hard as learning Chinese.
Is it like the speed or the pronunciation that's the most difficult?
I mean, no, you can learn how to speak the language. After a while, you will learn and you will get the sense of, okay, like for example, my house, I'm lost a little bit, sorry. So it's like there's some words that you will say that you will have to learn. Hello, how are you, to do, to go, and all these simple words. Now the problem will be when now you see this on paper, because remember that on paper then you have to read it, but then there is character. So if it was an ABC, like our alphabet is ABC 26 letters, it's okay. In Chinese there are thousands of characters that you gotta learn. So definitely to learn the language, to learn to speak the language, it's easier than now to learn how to read it. So and now you're talking about Chinese. Then when you talk about Japanese, they have 3 different alphabets, and then some alphabets have so many different characters that even a Japanese person, he has to go to school for about, like, I think it's 20 years, like, before they can actually learn the language. And just a story, one day I was in Japan, and I passed in front of the store, and then I asked the girl I was with, oh, what is this? What are they selling in there? And she said, she doesn't know. And I'm like, how do you know? Don't you know, learn the language? She said, yeah, she doesn't know. She just know that it's something about house supplies, but she didn't really know what it was. And that's what it is. It's such a difficult language to learn, Japanese, that some Japanese people don't even know how to read it perfectly. They will know that it means something because of the character means, but they don't know what it means exactly. This is how difficult it is. So think about it now for us who go there for a few years, 2 or 3 years, trying to learn that same language. It's quasi impossible.
And what was your experience being, black in China?
It was actually quite good. It depends on how you look at it. I always felt, and that's my own experience, I always felt that Japanese women, or Chinese women, sorry, they have no problem with black men. It's just that the perception in the country is like, of course, the local people, they don't like to see a Chinese woman with black men. So just because the outlook of people will be a little bit negative, some women would not want to be seen around with you, even though they want to be with you. So you have a lot of women for example, you have a girlfriend, and then some of them, they didn't care, right? But a lot of them will say, hey, yeah, when we're outside, maybe we're not going to hold hands, But then when you're inside, everything is okay, right? But it's just that outside, because a lot of people look down on it. I think maybe I lived in China between 2007 and 2009. So probably, hopefully now it has changed quite a bit, because there's more and more foreigners moving to China now. But back in the days, 10 years ago, I remember it was quite like, like, of course, some girls wouldn't care, but some people would actually care. And then, of course, you have to remember that the older generation are the ones that they were more critical about a Chinese dating a black person, because they come from a background where when they grew up, black people or foreigners were seen as the demons of the West. So until today, there's still, communism back in the days, that's what we were looked at. Every foreigners were the demons of the West. And then the darker you are, the worse it was. Because in China, they have this thing about dark people being like the poor people, who are living in the field, who are working in the field, who are living in the countryside, while the whiter you are, Chinese you are, the better it seems. That's why actually when you're in China, you'll see that when it's sunny, many people, they have an umbrella. They don't want to have that tan. They want to be as white as possible because white is a sign of, like, you know, in a better social status. You know? Yeah. And the darker you are, the lower you are on the social status. It's so technically, all what it is that us as black people, we are like on the. It's not what it is, but it seems like, yeah, we are at the bottom of that scale. Now, I'm going to give you another story here. I had a girlfriend, and then she told her parents that, oh, she has a boyfriend and he's a foreigner, and they were quite understanding about it. And the day, then they only knew that he's Lawai. Lawai is a foreigner, and his name is Jay, until they saw me. And then when they learned that actually that foreigner was a black man, they turned completely against it. They were like, oh yeah, how can you bring such a shame to our family and stuff like that? So it's like, yeah, you know, there is two different type of foreigners even in their eyes, you know. So the white foreigner will still be better than the black foreigner. It's China. It's China in so many different ways. You know?
And what was your experience being a black man in Japan?
Oh, it was much better. Much better. First of all, you have to remember that Chinese culture and Japanese culture are two different cultures. For example, just to give you an example, it's so easy to see a Chinese person spitting on the floor in the middle of the street or in an elevator, or you are on a plane and then they will use the vomit bag to actually spit, and this is something quite normal. As they say in China, if you have spit in your mouth, you have to spit it, because if you actually swallow it, it turns into a worm. That's the say there. That's why you see many Chinese people, they spit. While in Japan, they never do that. It's such a respectful culture. They have, the respect is actually very high in the culture. So it's two different worlds completely. And they are very open to foreigners, to different people, and then even if they don't like you, they will never show it to you, because it's not, you don't show your emotion over there. So of course you might see some people who might not want to talk to you or be very shy to talk to you, but I always felt like they were very welcoming. So you will talk to a Japanese person. I'm lost in the metro because I don't understand how to get somewhere. A Japanese person would go out of their way to take me home or to show me where I have to go, compared to the in China, where it's sometimes they don't even want to talk to you. Now I think it's maybe a little bit better, but back in the day it was like, yes, they don't want to talk to you. While the Japanese, this is what you gotta understand, is that at the end of the day, it's still a beautiful experience. No matter how some people may look down on a black person, it's always a good experience. Now, the good part is of course, like for example, as I'm a DJ. So as a DJ, the musical scene at the time was like growing up. So it was growing. It was not like that big at the time. So what happened is that I had a great time going to the clubs, you know, playing the music, having to meet the local DJs, and having to go to the local scene. Beijing and Shanghai are two huge cities. So for a DJ, it's perfect city, because in one night, like in the weekend, I was playing 3 different clubs every night. Like on Friday, 3 different clubs, on Saturday, 3 different clubs. So it was a very great experience musically.
Hey guys, make sure you check out the Black Men Travels merch store, where we have Black Men Travels t-shirts and Black Men Travels tank tops. Peace.